As soon as Melissa is connected, she can go ahead and get the meeting started. Melissa, it's open. You can get the meeting started now. Can you hear me? Melissa?
I see Chair Halbert is in as an attendee.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just promoted him. He should be coming over soon.
All right, sorry I'm late, guys. Are we ready to start? Do we have a
All
quorum?
right, you can go ahead and start the meeting, David.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes. We do. Go ahead and get the meeting started.
We can.
Then I'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call of members.
Director Bonanno,
Here.
Director Brown,
Here.
Vice Chair Hernandez.
Present.
Here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can now, yeah. Director Josie,
Here.
Director Narum,
Here.
Chair Halbert.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Item 3 is meeting open to the public, members of the community who would like to make comments on any item within our scope, but not on the agenda. Please raise your hand.
So we have one attendee, but they're not raising their hand, and I didn't receive any comments via email.
Okay, very good. Then we'll close public comment. We'll then move to item 4, which is consent calendar. Any member who wishing to pull an item, please raise your hand. Seeing none, any comments?
I have
Actually, Jean, Josie has her hand raised.
I see, sorry there. Jean, go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a very quick question on the treasurer's report. There's a different amount shown on the balance sheet for the investment account, the LAIF account, than there is on the treasurer's report overall arching statement. On the beginning and ending balance, it shows one amount, and then on the balance sheet, it shows a different amount. I just wanted to reconcile those two things.
Yeah, I've always dreaded this question. It's the mark-to-market amount. We have to do it every year. It's the difference. Maybe David Albee wants to jump in here. It's basically the market value of our LAAF assets at the end of the year. So it gets entered into a slightly different account, but if we don't include it with the LAAF on the treasurer's report, we don't balance. So it's not actual money in the bank account, if that makes sense.
It didn't quite make sense.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I never understood it, and the person before me never understood it either. David, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so there's a fair market value adjustment that has to be done quarterly basis for LAIF, and a lot of times it's so minor that it's not done on a quarterly basis. It's done at year end, and in fact, most of our clients, the amount is so immaterial difference that we just pass on it and not track it because it's purely just a timing issue. Not really the way LAIF is intended to work, and because it's basically a live money market fund where you can pull your money out at any time. There's really no there's an average maturity of investments of around 313 days, but it's typically used more as a money market account.
So which of these, so I'm looking at pages 16 and pages 14 of the treasurer's report. Which one is the market value and which one is the cash in the account?
I'm sorry, my page numbers are different. I'm assuming you're looking at the LAAF statement.
Yeah, I'm looking at our actual staff report. The first page of the item staff report, the treasurer's report. First page sort of gives an overview. It's got general checking, then Fairfax activity, then LAIF investment account activity. That shows one amount. And then 2 pages later, it just shows the balance sheet, and that has a different amount for the LAIF account.
Hold on a second.
So not even looking at the LAIF statement, just looking at our own internal treasurer's report.
Staff report. Okay, hold on. No. $1136. Okay. Got it. Sorry, now I'm not. Sorry, lost my whole screen. The amount on the staff report is the actual amount in the bank account.
Okay, and so then the first attachment to the staff report where it's got assets, liabilities, fund balances.
Hold on. So the on the balance sheet,
Mhm.
that is the amount in the account plus that mark to market amount. If I didn't put it in there, the balance sheet wouldn't balance.
Okay, so that's, explain to me what the difference is again. I don't quite understand.
That's all right. It's the difference is there's a we have a separate account. It's 135.99 instead of just 135, and it's the mark to market amount. So it's the amount every year that we either made or lost on our investments in that account.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. It's like I said, it was never explained to me. I just know I have to do it every year, and now after listening to David, I'm wondering if I do. So I'll address that next year.
All right, any other comments or questions or hands raised? I see none. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Brown seconds.
Roll call, please.
Director Bonanno,
Aye.
Director Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Josie,
Aye.
Director Kick is absent, Director Narum,
Aye.
Chair Habert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 5 is the fiscal year 2022 annual comprehensive financial report. Staff report, please.
Yes. So this is our annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year 22. It is basically the culmination of everything for the year in terms of finances. It is prepared by our auditors. We prepare some of it, they prepare some of it. They review my work, I review their work. And it does take about 3 months, 3 to 4 months to get everything year end closed out. Today we have with us David Alvey. He was not our audit manager this year, but he has been in the past. Vicky Rodriguez was this year, but she couldn't make it. And David is very familiar with us. So we asked him to be here instead. So David, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you for having me. Good evening, Board of Directors. My name is David Alvey, and I'm the CPA audit partner at Mason Associates. And Mason Associates is LAVTA's independent external auditor. And our, as Tamara said, every year is to come in and review the financial statements and render an opinion on whether or not the financial statements that you have in front of you are free from material misstatement. And that technically is, there's a lot of pieces that we help compile on the annual comprehensive financial report of the ACFR, but technically the only piece that my firm owns are the opinions. And I say opinions because there's quite a few of them with the different funding sources you get between your STA and MTC and federal funding. So there's a lot of compliance opinions in the back of your report. But the bottom line is on page 1 of the ACFR is our basic financial statement opinion. And I'm pleased to say it is an unmodified or a clean opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that a CPA firm can give an entity. So congratulations, you got a clean audit opinion. One really interesting thing I want to point out on your report is the movement of your net pension liability and your net OPEB, which is liability typically, but it's actually an asset this year. So you can see on the face of the financials. So on page, if you want to actually see it, on page 15 or page 70 of the agenda packet, of the PDF, you'll see that your net pension liability last year was 1.3 million, and this year it's only 605,000. And then your net OPEB liability last year was 341,000, and you actually have a net OPEB asset of the current year of 447,000. So that is also just due to the way the market was last year, and it may swing back the other way next year as those things start to smooth out, but just something to point out that was an interesting factor this year in the report. At the end of the ACFR is the compliance section, and there is where we have the single audit. So anytime an entity gets more than 750,000 in federal funds, they expend more than 750,000 in federal funds, we have to do a compliance opinion or compliance audit, which is completely different than the basic financial statement audit. And that's where we have to look at those compliance supplements, those agreements with the grantors, make sure that LAVTA is in compliance with those and following those. So for the current year, the single audit had 2.3 million on this schedule of expenditures of federal awards. The last piece that you have here in your agenda packet for the audit is the memorandum on internal controls. Now, this is my firm's communication to this board of things that we have found during the audit. And it's also known as the management letter. And those things can be categorized in 3 different ways. Material weakness. So something material can flow through the internal controls and not get caught. A significant deficiency is something significant can flow through the internal controls and not get caught. And then the last is to catch all other matters. And I'm pleased to say that we have no material weaknesses. We have no significant deficiencies. And the only thing in the schedule of other matters is just to keep you up to date on what's coming down for the next couple of years for the Government Accounting Standards Board's pronouncements. And there's nothing really coming up in the next couple of years that are major that'll affect LAVTA, like GASB 68 and 75 did with the pension and OPEB over the past couple of years. We also issue a required communication. So we're required to tell you that we had no disagreements with management. We don't think management was trying to influence our audit or limit our scope. We have no issues with management's accounting assumptions. So that could be assumptions having to do with pension, having to do with other post-employment benefits or depreciation. No unusual items were noted, and we have nothing to report out that we need to make you aware of that we found during the audit. And with that, just like to thank Tamara for all of her hard work and open it up to any questions you might have.
David, Carla.
Any questions?
Yes, I do.
I see your hand, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. Thank you for being recognized. Congratulations on your clean letter of support and your GFOA award. My question is a rather simple one. I noticed that as interim director, Tamara Edwards signed and also as finance director. So she's in that position, which is wonderful. I guess I question first, David, do you see a concern where somebody has those 2 very key positions in an organization? I know she provides everything that you need, but is that ever a red flag to an audit?
In transition, no, not necessarily a red flag. What we do, and it's more during our interim phase of the audit, so this is usually in the summer, where we're looking at the internal control environment. And what we do is we do a kind of a grid narrative where we list who has custody of the assets, who has access to blank check stock, who has access to the bank statements, who has access to vendor database. And then we have a list of who does what, who actually does the bank rec, who actually processes accounts payable. And anytime there's those 2 lines meet, there's got to be some kind of mitigating factor. Well, yeah, the same person does the accounts payable and has access to vendor database, but the supervisor reviews that and reviews any changes and is not a check signer, that sort of thing. So we test those controls. And if we did have any issues that we would find, we would bring those up in that memorandum on internal controls.
Okay, thank you.
Real quick, I just want to add that with this in mind, that's why I asked for Tony to have the 3% increase in his salary when I was made interim, because I need someone to review everything I do. And Tony will tell you he gets writer's cramp because there's a lot. There's a lot. And I cannot sign checks. I never have been able to sign checks because I can print checks, but he's been signing the bank statement reconciliations. He's been signing drawdowns from the FTA. He's been reviewing all of that and doing all of that. So I am very cognizant of the division of responsibilities. So.
Oh, and I'm sure you are. And thank you, Tony, for doing that with your writer's cramp. I also, as I noticed, principal officials, that date is June 30th. And the organization chart still reflects executive director as being McEltree instead of our interim. Is that because this is the close of financials? Even if there's a change after that point, it's at that moment of time?
Right. The governing board is of that time. The organizational chart is just the most current available information.
I just left Michael on there.
I
One,
know.
'cause I knew the auditors didn't care, but two, because he was here 10 out of 12 months.
Oh,
So,
got it. There
yeah,
you go.
so I left him on there.
Okay.
And like I
All
said, I knew the auditors didn't care because
Yeah.
that came up before.
Okay. All right. Those are the end of my questions. Thank you.
Okay, I see Gina Bonanno.
Hi, yeah, David, thank you for that report, and Tamara and your whole crowd and team there, really great work as usual. Really great to see such a clean report. I just have a question for David. If you could just one more time go over the OPEB numbers, and I can't quite see the scaling of the OPEB liability going down if the market is going up or down. I just don't know the relationship. If you could just review that for me one more time, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So for focusing on the other post-employment benefits, the OPEB, it was 1.3. I'm sorry, it was 341,000 liability last year, and it's a 347 asset this year, asset this year. And really what that is when there's big swings in the market in terms of 2021 was 2020 and 2021 were actually pretty good in terms of interest rates and investment returns. Those have an effect on your net OPEB liability or asset, and they try to smooth those out over the years. But sometimes when there's these really huge gains and then followed by losses, you have these swings in that amount. So I'm having a lot of my clients, actually, even on the pension side, they're swinging from a liability to an asset, but more than likely next year, after the financial results of that year are done, then they'll swing back. But we're always kind of like a year behind on those.
Okay, that actually explains it, because if I'm remembering, between July 1 of 2021 and June 30th of 2022, which is what the period we're talking about is, right? We actually had a decrease in the market, but there were lots of swings in there. And I know it's not just stock market, it's bonds as well, but okay, that helps. So it looks better this year, but don't get too excited that it'll look the same next year.
Right. It all depends on that discount rate. When we're doing these long projections and trying to project out what the market's going to do, a long-term rate of return, it's all about that discount rate.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for the report.
Very good. And great questions. And thank you for the answers, David. Seeing no other hands raised, is there a motion to accept?
I would move approval of the item. Bonanno.
Brown seconds.
Very good. Moved and seconded to accept the fiscal year 2022 annual comprehensive financial report. Actually, will we take a roll call now, please?
Yes, Director Bonanno,
Aye.
Director Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Josie.
Aye.
Director Kick is absent, Director Narum,
Aye.
and Chair Halbert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good. Item 6, Atlantis Transit Operations and Maintenance Facility Update. This is an information only.
Thank you. That's me. Good afternoon. We have Mike Mowry from Kimberly Horn Associate here to provide an update on the Atlantis project. But before I give him the floor, I'll provide a quick recap on the project. So in 2020, knowing that there will be federal and state funding available and that the zero emission transition would require a larger facility than Rutan can accommodate, staff began work with Kimberly Horn on the initial phase consisting of planning and conceptual design, followed by the completion of the schematic design plans. Then in October of last year, with new funding provided by ECTC, staff in Kimley Horn started the development of the bridging document and 60% design plans. Since that time, the planning document was submitted to the City of Livermore for review. And over the last 7 months, we have been working with city staff to address comments from the review. So with that, I'll pass it to Mike.
Thank you, Tone, and thank you, board members, for hearing an update on where we are on the Atlantis campus project. I think all of you have seen different updates from myself and others on the project, so I'll try not to repeat myself and generally just talk about the advancements we've had for the project in the last time since we presented before you in, I believe, April. So let me share PowerPoint. And apologies, I am constricted to one screen today. So I'm going to stay away from presentation view so I can see all your smiling faces. So again, what you'll start to see is some of the imagery will look similar, but I'll point out some of the refinements to the external building and campus layout areas. And then talk about the things that we've done inside and supporting the buildings as we go forward in the presentation. So again, the Atlantis site is part of the Oaks Business District. It has some existing development for fueling station and bus wash, and does house some of the LAVTA operations to date. It will be to expand kind of the northern and southern thirds of the site, adjacent to some of the industrial and warehousing yokes. This is a landscaped imagery as we start to look at how we look to plan and plant the site. I'm noticing now that the maintenance building could have used a floor plan rather than a larger massing, but to give you a sense of continuing to utilize the existing concrete pad that's there today, keep almost all of that in operation for the external use for the project, and then looking to add an admin operations building on the north part of the site. I'll note here and in all the consecutive drawings that north is now to the left rather than up, and then the maintenance building on the south part of the site is part of the redevelopment. To give you some broader sense of some of the site features, we will have about 120 parking stalls, which is just slightly over the current zoning for the Oaks business area. As Tone said, one of the main impetus for this new campus is the hydrogen fueling, and I'll show that location, some details on that further in the presentation. We do have 3 outdoor amenity areas for LAVTA and contractor employees. The site will be built with electrical vehicle charging stations installed, as well as future planning for additional EV charging. And then the bike parking noted here is just for the external bike parking. There would also be an intention to have some near the showers and lockers internal as an internal storage facility, internal to the building, excuse me. So since we've talked to you last, as we said, we've coordinated consistently with the City of Livermore planning staff and submitted the application for the project in May. Since that time, we've had a few rounds of review and refinement to the plan, and with the current phase making a few of the last refinements that I'll show you today to the exterior facades of the maintenance building, with the hope that the planning staff would have their comments resolved by the end of November, following this time of year, likely resulting in a planning commission agenda item in January. You'll see in a lot of the external graphics that the building shapes and sizes haven't significantly changed, but I would say everything inside them has. As far as during this time, we've done structural layout, interior architectural layouts, again, refine out exterior landscape, and then really starting to look at how we support the site with utility connections, both electrical, water, and sewer connections. All these were to better match the Oaks business plan, or sorry, business park development standards, and then ultimately refine the set to what would be called a bridging document set, which will allow LAFTA the option to either, if and when approved by the city planning department, to further design and go for a full bid set, or to decide to do a design build set if they so choose, or the funding they seek would align with that. Working through the imagery, as I said, this image will feel familiar for those of you that have seen it before. I'll note some of the major changes is that some of the building shading, some of the window shading has changed. In some conditions that was removed. Here at the, this would be, sorry, the east front of the building. It was removed to give it a little bit of difference and interest. And this also is not a direct sun location for the building versus the the western front facing portion of the building. Some of the metal grid features along the entry area and adjacent to some of the outdoor amenity areas. And then I would say this upper roof element has continued to be refined from an architectural element standpoint. Again, a lot of the last 5 months has been also working with the structural engineers to make sure everything that you've seen to date really would work from a buildability standpoint. Some additional imagery you can see here at the back of the building, so the south-facing facade. Some of those window shades were not there before. They are now added for building efficiency. You're seeing now on the south facade that kind of transom roof edge has less perforation on the south side, thinking about, again, sun conditions, especially during the summer months. And then, again, some little refinements in the large entry glass area features. These are the elevations, with the north elevation facing Discovery on the top, and the south elevation facing what would be the current courtyard or paved area on the bottom. And then I would say from an architectural standpoint, the maintenance building did get more evolved during this time than the admin building. And a lot of that was starting to take its keys from the admin building, both with the materiality and the color palette, and then also some of the push and pulls of some of the features and breaking up the mass of the building from the large square that it really lays out for the maintenance operation. Some of the elements that have been incorporated recently from planning staff was really to better match some of these reliefs and scores, both vertically and these transom windows, that start to replicate a little bit of what we would see from the neighbors for this property. And then pulling out some of these what were vertical structural elements, but just to give, again, that vertical interest to the building. And then lastly, some refinements to the southern face of the building, endeavoring better for 360 architecture, recognizing that also the city of Livermore is anticipating or has received, and I'll admit I don't know the exact current status, an application for potential development just to the south of the site. Again, looking at the elevations, the north elevation facing Discovery, and the fueling wash area on the top, and the new south elevation with all those elements I just noted shown on the bottom. And then lastly, while we talked a lot about zero bus, and you've heard a number of independent reports that and LAFTA moving forward with the hydrogen facility in operation, this current plan set does incorporate the hydrogen pad and starts to put together the specifications for ultimately a design of that hydrogen facility. So that would be located immediately to the south of the existing structure, which is the fueling station, anticipating that the fueling itself would happen through piping and then in the southern areas of the existing fueling station. So while the pad and the tank will be in this location, and I'll show you a representative image here in a moment, the fueling activity itself would happen very similar to the gasoline fueling that's happening today. This is obviously a cut sheet from the plan set, giving you an idea of what the hydrogen area would be laid out as. Most of that area, and it's easier to see from representative imagery, is the hydrogen tank itself. There are some dampers in order for the cooling and heating functions of the gas, and then obviously many protective bollards in order to protect this installation. And then the current status, as I said, we made we made the application for the project in spring of this year. Coordinating with planning staff, we feel comfortable that the Planning Commission for the City of Livermore would see the project likely in January of next year for their vote. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the board members. Thank you.
Okay, well, great presentation. Thank you. Certainly care a lot about the City of Livermore's planning, which we'll hear from Gina. I know she'll have a comment, but Carla Brown, your hand was up first, then Gina, then Kathy.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for the presentation. I greatly appreciate an update. And I'm having to recall our last meeting where this board expressed concerns about covered areas for picnicking, that it gets hot in Livermore, and some of the areas were not covered. I recall, if I recall correctly, there was concerns about large glass windows with 100-degree temperatures, and even the entryway. There was a discussion about the entryway. I believe it was regarding shading, but maybe even to prevent for this very rare but wonderful thing we get occasionally, which is rain. So I wondered if you would not mind my commenting on what this board gave you as action items and how those specifically have been addressed.
Yes, thank you for your question, Board Member Brown. So the shading in the courtyard areas, so I'll show it on the landscape image first. That did refine the tree species selection. Our landscape architect did choose trees with a larger canopy rather than having that be necessarily a structural element or a pergola element for the eastern courtyard. So that was our response in that outdoor area. For the west outdoor area, they continue to use that on the further western part of that courtyard. And then they did introduce, the architects, introduced a trellis. And I think the extension of that is approximately 8 to 10 feet out into the courtyard. So not the full courtyard covered, but again, tried to respond to the request. And this image, again, doesn't show the maintenance building.
Before you move though, before you move on
Sorry.
to maintenance, can you use your highlighter to point out where dining areas would be? And, oftentimes people meet outside when you're meeting a vendor, or if any of the board members are there and we want to meet with an executive director or something. Back to the previous
Yep.
slide.
So yeah, so most of the outdoor dining would be under these tree canopies for the eastern courtyard. Can you see my cursor trying to circle those? Okay.
Sure.
And then same generally with seating here for dining underneath the tree canopies. This this courtyard does allow for a little more casual seating, which is what you're seeing just in plan view here. So currently the only coverage for that is either shading from the building within this trapezoidal area, or that new trellis that's showing there. So near what you're showing here is a potential fountain. The fountain area itself and the adjacent seating is not covered.
Okay. All right. Do you expect with the sunrise sunset to have that trapezoidal area to be partially shaded so it could be utilized for something like this? Or is it, because we're talking a two-story building, so I would assume it would be, correct?
Correct. Yeah. The architects have done all the sun and shadow studies to show those locations, and they feel like this is adequate for that seating area.
All right, that's my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Bonanno.
Yeah, thank you, David, and thank you, Mr. Mowry, for the report. I think the building looks great, and just say on behalf of the City of Livermore, we're really excited to have this improved facility. Very excited about the zero emission aspects of it and the zero emission buses. So I think you've been working very closely with planning, which I think is always makes for a much smoother process and path through the Planning Commission. So thank you for that. I do have a couple questions, and if you covered any of this, I didn't hear it, but I apologize if I missed it. Wanted to talk a little bit about some of the energy features. Is this building all electric? And if not, what aspects of it will require natural gas?
So at this time, sorry, thank you for your question, Commissioner Bonanno. At this time, in the bridging document that we've shown enough electrical service that it could be all electric. We have retained the existing gas connection, and that would be only really for heating or water heater use. But again, right now we plan the project where it could be all electric if needed.
So that's okay. So will that be a final design decision?
That would be a final design decision. Okay. Yeah. And then we also are planning for this project to have a net metering aspect as it relates to PV solar. The specifications for the project will show as an add alternate for the project, because the budgeting is coming in a bit above where the estimates were almost 10 years ago when this was first imagined. But to have, and I'll show, sorry, a location. That's not going to be the best. So on the admin operations building, really the only opportunity for solar would be on the southern exposure behind that roof sail feature. And then on the operations building, really there is slightly two tiers to that building. So the offices themselves are on a lower 1 story, and then the maintenance areas are on a higher, still 1 story. That roof is a flat roof, so really anything on the maintenance areas could also be solar. Okay. We're doing estimates to see from the building energy use how much that could be net in, but it would be considered a net meter operation for PG&E rather than battery storage.
Okay. Along the same lines, have you worked to the extent possible? I know there's a lot of hard surfaces required for this facility, but have you worked to incorporate any permeable surfaces where possible? Even things, there are new materials, even permeable asphalts and things that will allow the water to obviously go back into the ground rather than into the wastewater system. Is that something you've worked on in the design?
So thank you for your question. We haven't looked at permeable paving. Some of that is due to cost, and then also just the weight of the vehicles moving around the site, especially in the transit areas. Now, permeable paving does allow for heavier vehicles, but with the heavy vehicle use being the primary use in at least the southern area, we hadn't. But it is a great question. We have incorporated stormwater treatment in the design. I pulled up this image just because it's the darker green elements you can see along the Atlantis roadway frontage. So all of the site roof drains and so on will be drained to the stormwater treatment areas and undergo natural percolation before they enter the city's stormwater treatment.
So, okay, so the grading will obviously direct as much water as possible to those spots.
Correct. Yeah, we're required by Alameda County C3 code to treat all offsite water or all on-site water before it goes to the off-site connection.
Okay, and last question along those lines, have you looked into, or are you incorporating or looked into the possibility of using low carbon concrete?
We have not asked our architects to incorporate that at this time.
Okay, there are becoming some fairly cost-effective ways to not use the traditional process of making and the concrete, which is very carbon intensive. So thank you for all those answers. I really appreciate it. And I think this I'll be coming off in December. This will be my last bite at this apple. So I guess I'll just leave as closing remarks that wherever possible, I would really strongly encourage any of these, maximizing solar, maximizing permeable surface where it's possible, making sure that all electric is seriously considered in the final design. I'll just leave those as my parting comments on what I think is going to be a really beautiful facility. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Very much appreciated. And indeed, maybe something we should consider in the very, very, very beginning of our project design and build it into our specs, at least the consideration of. Very well said. Kathy Narum.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I was curious, in some of your renderings, it looks like there might be some grass. It's hard to tell. So I guess my real question is, are we drought tolerant landscaping throughout the facilities?
Yes, thank you for your question, Commissioner Narum. The renderings are probably showing those a little more lush than they need to. So those are individual gas bulbs, which will be part of the storm water system. It's not the intent that those would be turf, or lawn, as a lot of us would consider.
Okay, so everything being selected is going to be on the drought tolerant list.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I realize that might be a little preliminary, but I think it's kind of important. Even though we're having rain, it's we're way behind. So, okay, thank you.
Well, I've never seen an architect over embellish on the landscaping part of their proposals. I'm amazed. No, I hear you. All right, thank you very much. And so drought tolerant as opposed to maybe what we see. Very good. I see Councilmember Kick.
Hi, sorry I was a little bit late. Just wanted to echo everything that Board Member Bonanno said. Livermore is working really hard on our climate action plan, and we want to make sure that even if it's not finalized yet and not something, it's a rule that our buildings would technically have to follow, that LAVTA is leading the way in design. So just a +1 for everything Gina said.
Very good. Seeing no other hands raised, we're looking for just an information only, so there's no other action or nothing taken for this. The next item, that is number 7, the LAVTA Rutan Landscaping Maintenance Project.
Sorry, I keep losing my screen. My Zoom screen just keeps disappearing. So as those of you who have visited our Rutan facility prior to, or actually any of our facilities, prior to the renovation of the Rutan facility, you may have noticed that our landscaping has been in disrepair for quite a while. We were actually going out to bid for a new landscape maintenance company when Michael Tree said, hey, why don't we just rip out all this landscaping and replace it first? So we did, and Rutan's taken care of. And with that agreement, there was 6 months of maintenance after the installation. So that's coming to an end in December. So we went out to bid for new landscape maintenance company for all 3 locations, Transit Center, Atlantis, and Rutan. We put the bid out. We sent it out to, pretty much everyone we could find who does landscaping. and who does landscape maintenance versus installation. Some companies do both. And we received 3 bids. We received one from RMT Landscape, one from Ogrina, and one from Pacheco Landscape Management. This bid, it was for 3 years, plus 2 option years, so potential of 5 years. So I included the bid amounts for the 3 years and what it would be for all 5 years. As you can see, there is a huge difference in the pricing. The highest bid, he did not request to rescind his bid, but he did send me an email and say, "Oh, I messed up my bid." So I guess he didn't intend it to be that outrageously high, but the lowest bid is RMT Landscape Contractors, Inc. Again, for all 3 sites, for 3 years and then 2 option years. And so it's recommended that the board authorize me to execute an agreement with RMT Landscape Contractors, Inc. For the 3 years and 2 option years to begin December 10th.
Any questions? Jean
Yeah.
Josie?
Thanks. And the amount we have budgeted is not quite enough to cover the first year. Is that correct?
Actually, it is for the first year because he escalated each of the 3 years. So it is enough. As a matter of fact, it's almost exact. I don't think he looked at the budget, but I mean, I can't promise. Although he wouldn't see the individual line items, but it is almost exact for the first year. And then we would have the amounts to bid for the second and third, possible 4th and 5th years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if I may, if Jean's done.
I see she took her hand back down. Carla, for you.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we're going to Oakland and Castor Valley when we have local maintenance, landscape maintenance firms here and in Tracy. Is there some reason why you went from Oakland? Because I would think the cost of bringing somebody in that commute would be significant.
We advertised everywhere. We did the same with our landscape replacement bid, and it was the same thing. We didn't get local bids. I don't know why. I don't know, if they're already working out here, and that's why these companies bid on our project. But I mean, we reached out to local companies. We just didn't get a response from them.
I find that so interesting. Okay. All right.
But isn't Pacheco local?
Well, they're Castro Valley. I mean, they're all Alameda County, but they're not Tri-Valley.
Not
Two are from Oakland, and I'm just, surprised that Tri-Valley is not interested in bidding. Okay.
Well, where they have a corporate headquarters and where they have satellite operations may be different. But I think to Councilmember Brown's point, we should at least try to find out why. Maybe. I mean, I know we have limited time, but I wonder if there's a way to find out why locals didn't apply.
We can call around and ask why they didn't bid.
All right. I mean, I
Thank
know
you.
all of our cities, I think, contract out with, well, I shouldn't say, I don't know. I just know that Dublin does. And so, there are local people that do this work for our cities. That just curious why they wouldn't. Maybe we're doing something to not as a barrier. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, something sometimes in the bid package, especially if Pacheco didn't quite understand the bid, or we too, the city of Pleasanton, contract out much, but not all of our landscaping, and so does Hacienda Business Park. So it's puzzling. I just would like to get the best price, and this is a huge swing in price. I mean, between bid 1 and 2 is a doubling in the 5 years, and between 2 and 3 is another doubling. So it just seems like something doesn't seem quite right. So, all right, thanks.
What would be the process, Tamara? Should we, can we delay this, or is it due today?
We can delay it. I guess we can we are allowed to reject all bids. We just need to have a contract in place by December 10th.
By December 10th?
Yes. That's when our current maintenance contract ends.
Okay.
They also did not bid on this, and I don't know why. They told me they were interested, but they weren't local either. They were.
Can we have another meeting between now and then? Could we just give direction to go see if you could find a different bid, or
We
bring
would
it
have to
back?
go out to rebid, which we can do. We can go out to rebid. Michael Connor, correct me if I'm wrong, please.
We certainly could rebid. One thing you might think about is if you wanted to inquire with some local firms and see why they didn't bid, you could certainly bring the same matter back in December with an explanation, if that would satisfy the board's concerns. But otherwise, you'd need to if you're going to give it to anybody other than the three on this list, and really anybody other than the low bidder, unless we had a reason to deviate from that, you're going to need to rebid, which is going to take some time.
Can be done between now and December 10th?
Well, there's a problem because I'm the project manager and I'm going to be gone for 10 days, plus Thanksgiving. So I'm not sure. I mean, it's not just writing it up and putting it out. That's just changing dates. But we have to do a walkthrough, a pre-bid conference and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, we could go a month without landscape maintenance and see what happens.
Is there anything in our contract that allows us to extend month to month with the prior company?
We can ask. They're probably willing. They may want to charge more than what our current contract is. But they would probably be willing. But again, they didn't bid, so I'm not sure why. Well, probably because they knew we weren't happy with them.
So would you maybe do some investigation, come back next month and either tell us that we have a temporary solution with our current, I'm just talking out loud. Maybe we have a temporary solution that gives us a little bit of time to go out and rebid. They'll extend for a month or two or whatever. Or this is the best that we can do and let's approve it now so that we can keep moving on uninterrupted.
I just have a comment really quick.
Yeah.
With regards to like MCE, and they do for all of our parks and all the maintenance and much more. We're always constantly looking for employees. So they are also contracting out. So I think employees is probably at least, MCE is tapped out. And that's probably why someone local did not bid. And so I think a lot of it has to do with people are just needing employees.
It could very well be. Plus the cost then goes up, which is maybe explaining the jump. Yeah. Jean Josie?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth finding out some of the local companies, why they didn't bid. We can guess all day. But I also want to advocate for the fact that we do have a responsive bidder that came in at our budget. And why are we messing with that process? I would recommend that we accept this bidder so that we have a smooth process going forward. Find out if there's some reason that other people don't want to bid on our project other than just perhaps the ridiculously tight labor market. But we've just installed beautiful landscaping. We don't want to mess with having no maintenance company to take care of it. And I would recommend that we go forward with this item.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. So motion made and seconded. Any other comments on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in and just say that I agree. If this is something we want to look into and say that we only accept bids from the Tri-Valley, then we should look into that process. But I think it sets a bad precedent to be like, well, we don't want it to be from Oakland, therefore we're going to start over. So if that's something the board wants to do, I think we have to create a process for that, not pick cherry pick.
So I didn't, that's a good point. I never heard anybody say that. Local hire is certainly very front and center with a lot of conversation. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think an option of having feedback come back is that doesn't mess up any landscaping plans, continuous service, all of that. But we don't have to go that route. Let's approve this today, and in the meantime, on the side, understand why local people didn't apply, and see if we can, if indeed, to Councilmember Kick's point, if we want to have local hire, then let's make it be part of what we want to do. And if we don't want local hire, then that's fine, and we can define that a number of ways. But a motion's made and seconded, and so, and I think all happy with that. I think time to take a vote unless anybody has any last minute comments.
I just want to comment, since I brought up the question about why there's such a difference in range. It doesn't mean RMT is not a qualified vendor. It was just a question about why there's such a big swing and why local companies who would normally bid, who even expressed interest, did not bid. So I think it's still valid to find out if, as an aside, whether we go forward as a board with this particular item or not. Whenever someone says, I'm very interested in bidding, and they don't bid, it's, I think as a board of directors, it's nice to know what happened.
Well, I can certainly do the research on the local companies. I can tell you again, Pacheco made a mistake on his bid. So he didn't intend it to be that high. When I did the math, he was like, oh, I did something wrong. Ogrina, because they've been trying to get business with us. They apparently do everything. I'm like, literally, we need a plumber. They're like, oh, we do plumbing. Yeah, they literally do everything allegedly, but they're an all green company. So their supplies are a lot more expensive. They also, I think they would do a great job. Don't get me wrong. But on something else that we looked at with them, they had like 4 times the amount of staff in their proposal than what was needed. So they're a very new company. I like them very much. I think they would do a great job, but they're definitely going to be pricier. And they also, when I spoke with her last time, she didn't understand what a low bid procurement was. She said, oh, it's based on price. It's completely outlined. She had outlined how they could do a much better job. And I was like, and maybe you could, but this was a low bid contract. If we'd gone out the other way, they might have had a better chance, but we'd also be paying twice as much. So
yeah, a very, very complicated process indeed. And bidding, but so a mistake by human error by Pacheco, but whatever it was, I don't know, but a mistake, and it's going to lead to a 3 to 5 year contract that we'll maybe see a local Tri-Valley company in 3 to 5 years. Their mistake. So let's get this done. A motion's been made and seconded. Roll call.
Director Bonanno,
Aye.
Director Brown,
Hi.
Vice Chair Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Josie,
Aye.
Director Kick.
Aye.
Director Narum,
Aye.
Chair Habert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Next item is going to be item number 8. Is that right? Yeah. Set board of director meeting dates for 2023. Does anybody have any problems with the dates? Let's see. I see no hands raised.
I want to bring something to your attention just so you all could look at it. On July 3rd, that meeting, I guess on Tuesday, July 4th, that's 4th of July. We weren't sure if you guys wanted to move that date to the following week to July 10th or keep it July 3rd.
Does anybody care to weigh in on that? Brittany?
Not about that. I just wanted to bring up a concern. I'm just noticing a lot of change in who's running in local elections, which I think is fantastic as someone who's sometimes an outlier. But I am wondering if we need to look back at this next year with whoever is elected. There are a lot more people running who have full-time jobs that might not have as much flexibility. So I was wondering if maybe we can just take a look at it again once we know who will be serving next year. I mean, I think we can go ahead and approve it, but a lot of us might not actually be sitting here in this role. So it might make sense to revisit.
So is your concern the time of day? because people work during the day, or?
Yeah,
What's-
just that is my personal concern. Yeah, but and so that might be something that might become more of a problem as there are more people with less flexible schedules. I have an extremely flexible schedule, but then I have to work late to make it up. But anyways, that's beside the point. The point is less flexibility in people that have to work full time. I think might be something that we have to deal with in the future, and that maybe we should look at it again.
Duly
When the
noted.
new people, if the new people come, and that's an issue, that we should provide them the opportunity to serve their community, but not have to take time off, especially in the small communities like ours, that it's not a professionalized role.
Understood. So for the agency that we serve here, let's set these dates, and if we look, let's note to look at it in the future, or as we invite new members after who may join this board, to poll them and have them weigh in. That seems like a fair thing to do. So is that a motion? Or do you need a motion? Action or
It's
not?
just a suggestion as we move forward, and just to bring up as we're discussing it, and I'll leave it.
Very good. Any other comments?
I think I prefer to keep the July meeting on the 3rd, but I'm open to suggestions from everybody else's calendar.
It's fine with me. Let's say if anybody wants to move it, raise your hand. How about that? I don't see anybody that feels the need to move it, so let's keep it the way it is. And that means adopting the calendar means Josie's going to move and Brittany Kitt can second it. How's that? Anybody want to move?
Hernandez will move.
I'm fine to second it.
Very good. Roll call.
Director Bonanno,
Aye.
Director Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Josie.
Aye.
Director Kick,
Aye.
Director Narum,
Aye.
Chair Halbert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item 9, interim executive director's report.
Okay. I'll try to make this quick because there's still more to do. Ridership in October increased. It is steadily increasing, which is awesome. We're still not up to pre-COVID levels, but we also don't have all our routes running. So it probably won't happen until that happens, and until people start coming back to work. Our transit center is going through a rehab. We have a federal grant to pay for, I believe it's 80% of this. And there's much more to the project, but Tone and his team have added some signage, some electronic signage. There's overhead signs, as you can see in the picture on the left, and then there's a kiosk on the right. And these are interactive. They're touchscreen. They will hopefully answer a lot of the customers' questions that they go to the window for. And as well as just questions that they may have that they wouldn't have thought to ask, because some people don't like to talk to people. It is touchscreen. It is ADA accessible, and it has features in English and Spanish, and it has an audible options for those who are visually impaired. So if you happen to be by the transit center, you can swing by and take a look at them. Hacienda Business Park has started their polycarbonate replacement project that we've assisted them with. We were able to do about 50% of the shelters. They've started, I included the picture so you can see what they've done. They started with the roof because the roof is curved and therefore more difficult than the whole rest of the shelter. So they're doing all the roofs on the shelters. I believe it's 47 shelters. And then they'll do the other pieces. So it's going to take a little bit more time, but hopefully by the first of the year, they'll be done. And at least the polycarbonate of the shelters will look good. I can't help them with the rest of it, but the polycarbonate will be nice. Nice and clear and pretty. The SAV, we are working on a grant agreement with May Mobility, us and legal. And once the contract terms are finalized, that'll be brought to the Projects and Services Committee in November, hopefully, and the board in December. so that we can go to the next phase of the SAV project. And the Dublin parking garage has finally started construction. It's been a while, but it finally started construction. Some of you attended our construction commencement ceremony. That's all Tony. That's Tony came up with that. And it was a very nice event, very well attended. Everyone seems really excited to get the project started and hopefully completed. It's being done by McCarthy Construction. And I thought this was fascinating. Maybe people in the construction world wouldn't have been fascinated, but they have a whole parking garage division that just builds parking garages. So they're like parking garage experts, which is awesome. So the last little piece other than the construction is we had about $186,000 left from a second part of the grant that was used for a 680 hub study. And we're moving that over to construction. It is not going to solve the issues they're having with the funding for the project, but it's $186,000 and there's no point in returning it. So I am working on that. Hopefully it will go to the CalSTA board in December is the hope. And then it's not on there, but I just wanted to share that Jennifer Yeamans came back to work today. She's working very part-time. We weren't sure she was going to make it the whole 5.5 hours today, and she did. So she's doing basically 5 hours because she's taking a lunch, 5 hours, 4 days a week. So, and then as she's feeling stronger, we'll increase that. So I don't think anyone was more excited to see her than me. We're meeting tomorrow, so I can download a bunch of stuff to her and then and let her know where I hid things because her filing system, my filing system are not the same. So we'll find everything, we'll get moving. And then our new capital projects manager starts in a couple of weeks. He had to move it back because of his house not closing when it was supposed to, which was a shock to him, but not to anybody else who's ever bought a house. So, and then last but not least, today is Chair Hobbert's birthday. So
before we go into our
wish him a
breakout
happy
groups,
birthday.
or our group will go into the breakout
And that's all for me.
Well, thank you very much, Tamara. Is that,
Happy
were you
birthday.
finished there? Okay.
I'm
Happy
done.
birthday.
Any questions of the executive director? Raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is report from closed session.
Chair, the board met in closed session on October 7th regarding the executive director recruitment. There was no reportable action taken.
Any questions of that? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the next item, which is adjourn to closed session. Do we have a separate link for that?
We do. It's on the email. I think you.
Would you resend it right now?
I actually emailed it just a little bit ago to all of you.
Okay. Very good. Let's all
Okay.
move there.
See you on the other side.
Bye.
Hello.
Hey, Tony.
I just wanted to make sure this phone worked in case they asked me to do something later. I'm doing the *6 thing.
Oh, there you go.
Worked.
Okay, I see that we're all here. I'll ask our attorney, Michael Conran, is there anything to report out from closed session?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Board met in closed session, discussed the appointment of executive director of the agency. At this time, I would suggest that the board entertain a motion to appoint Christy Wegener as the next executive director of LAVTA, and also approve the employment agreement with her, starting salary of $215,000. I would note that I've asked the staff to post that document to the agency's website in case anyone wanted to see it prior to the board's consideration of it.
Just a minute, I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Again, we don't, other than Christy herself, we don't have any participants in the meeting other than the board and staff, but I just think that's an important step.
All right. Then I'll recognize Commissioner Bonanno and then Josie.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure to move that we appoint Christy Wegener as the next executive director for LAVTA. And I want to say it was a pleasure working with the subcommittee, Kathy Narum and and Melissa Hernandez. We worked through that process, and I thought we did a nice job with a lot of help with Michael and the rest of the team to get through the process. And again, I'm really happy to make the motion to approve.
Very good. Josie?
It would be my pleasure to second that motion.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Yes, Director Bonanno,
Aye.
Director Brown,
My pleasure to vote yes.
Vice Chair Hernandez.
She's having trouble getting into this session.
So she's not present right now. Director Josie,
Yes.
Director Kick. Director Kick,
Yes.
Director Narum,
Aye.
and Chair Halbert.
Aye. If Chair Hernandez joins, she can vote. Otherwise, it passes anyway. So congratulations. And I note that we have the opportunity now for anyone who wishes to speak. Well, let's see. I mean, were we going to invite, is Christy still here? Yep, Christy, care to say a few words? Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Chair Hobart, and happy birthday to you. Good evening, board members. I just want to express my sincere thanks to the board for this amazing opportunity. Coming back to Wheels truly does feel like coming back home. And I am beyond excited to get to work with the wonderful staff. And I know the future is very bright for our agency, and I can't wait to get to work. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Very good. You're very welcome. And we look forward to bringing you on board quickly. All right.
David.
Michael. Yep.
So we have Director Hernandez here, or Vice Chair Hernandez here. Did you want her to take a vote?
Yes, please recognize Chair Hernandez to vote on the item.
Vice Chair Hernandez?
Aye.
All right, very good. Thank you.
So
All right,
motion passes unanimously.
thank you. Yes. So that then brings us to item 16, matters introduced by the board. Would anybody care to introduce an item for future discussion? I see Brittany Kick's hand raised.
My only matter is a big thanks to our interim for her time. And welcome, Christy.
Very good. I think we all agree, and thank you. Next, Commissioner Brown.
Yeah, well, I also am going to second that. I was hoping to comment under the agenda item, but Tamara has been an incredible interim, and I know she's going to be very helpful as we transition to a new executive director. So she's been wearing many, many hats beyond, I think, what anybody could expect. And it's with great appreciation. So welcome, Christy. Welcome back home, as you said. I wanted to bring up a matters initiated that was actually a topic since the new design for the expansion of our new facility was a feedback, did not allow feedback I would like to have the discussion about water penetrating surfaces and low water usage plantings, some of the items that were talked about. I would like them to come back if we need to as a vote. It was just feedback, but I think there was a majority on this board and we didn't get a chance to vote on it. So however we want to add some emphasis to that, I'd like to do that. And whatever the chair decides is the best method for doing that.
I'll ask staff to bring back at the discretion of the executive director an item that will discuss our procedures and standards and desires for future capital projects. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I think we don't have a lot of capital projects, but for this one specifically, I wanted to make sure some of the really great points that were made are incorporated into the design if possible. Thanks.
For this exact project. Michael, can we do that?
You certainly can. I know, I see Tone's not on in the meeting anymore. I think he's managing the project. Tomorrow, I don't know if your new capital person will be overseeing it, but a good thing Christie's here because she can take this down and work on it. It sounds like you want to the extent feasible, incorporate some sustainability features in the project. There's no reason you couldn't do that. I think we're a little early on the design, but I think getting that message to the designer now is a good idea. So we can proceed with that. So I think that's been noted.
Agreed. Okay. Thank you. Josie?
I just wanted to piggyback on that to request that when that comes back to us, there are specific cost differentials included with that item on those specific features. Thank you.
Always have to look at costs. You're right. Very good. And we'll have plenty of time to ask those questions. Exactly. All right. Are there any other questions or items for future consideration? Seeing none, we'll move to item 17, which is the next meeting date. As we mentioned, December 5th, likely will not be canceled. In fact, almost assuredly will happen. A transition date. We will welcome the new director and adequately and appropriately thank the interim director at that time. And with that said, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.